The First Crusade, a holy war that changed history. Introduction. The First Crusade, 1096 to 1099, was one of the most significant military expeditions in medieval history, marking the beginning of a series of religious wars between Christians and Muslims over control of the Holy Land. This crusade was launched by Pope Urban II in response to the Byzantine Empire's call for aid against the advancing Seljuk Turks. What followed was a brutal, yet transformative, campaign that ended with the capture of Jerusalem and the establishment of the First Crusader states. The First Crusade reshaped the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East and left a lasting impact on Christian-Muslim relations. Background: the call to arms. By the late 11th century, the Byzantine Empire, under Emperor Alexios I Komnenos, was facing a dire threat. The Seljuk Turks, who had recently converted to Islam, had expanded into Anatolia, defeating the Byzantines at the Battle of Manzikert, 1071, and seizing vast territories. The Byzantine capital, Constantinople, was under threat, prompting Alexios to seek help from the Western Christian states. In 1095, Emperor Alexios sent a plea to Pope Urban II, hoping for military support. Instead of a small contingent of mercenaries, Urban saw an opportunity to unite Western Europe under a common religious cause. At the Council of Clermont, November 1095, Urban gave a rousing speech, calling for a holy war to reclaim Jerusalem from Muslim control. His words ignited religious fervor across Europe, and thousands answered the call, embarking on the perilous journey to the east. The People's Crusade, 1096. Before the main armies of knights and nobles could mobilize, an unsanctioned group known as the People's Crusade, led by the charismatic preacher Peter the Hermit, set out for the Holy Land. Composed mainly of peasants and poorly trained fighters, this group lacked organization and discipline. They reached Constantinople in August 1096 but were seen as unruly and problematic by the Byzantines. Alexios, eager to send them away, transported them across the Bosporus Strait. Upon entering Seljuk-controlled Anatolia, they were ambushed and massacred at the Battle of Civitate, October 1096. This disastrous beginning did not deter the more experienced crusaders who followed. The main crusader armies, 1096 to 1097. Unlike the People's Crusade, the main crusader armies were well-equipped and led by Europe's most powerful nobles. The main leaders included Godfrey of Bouillon, Duke of Lower Lorraine; Bohemond of Taranto, Norman leader from southern Italy; Raymond of St. Gilles, Count of Toulouse; Robert of Normandy, son of William the Conqueror; Baldwin of Boulogne, brother of Godfrey. These leaders, along with their knights and soldiers, traveled separately, converging at Constantinople in 1097. Alexios made them swear loyalty oaths before allowing them to proceed into Anatolia. The Siege of Nicaea, May-June 1097. The Crusaders' first major victory came at Nicaea, a key Seljuk stronghold. With Byzantine naval support, the Crusaders besieged the city, forcing the Seljuks to surrender in June 1097. However, the Byzantines quickly took control of Nicaea, frustrating the Crusaders, who expected to plunder the city. The Battle of Dorylaeum, July 1097. The Crusaders marched through Anatolia, facing harsh conditions and skirmishes with Seljuk forces. At Dorylaeum, they encountered a large Seljuk army under Sultan Kilij Arslan I. The battle was fierce, but the Crusaders, despite early setbacks, rallied and secured a decisive victory. This opened the path towards Syria and the Levant. The Siege of Antioch, October 1097 to June 1098. One of the most grueling battles of the First Crusade was the Siege of Antioch. The city, a strategic gateway to Palestine, was heavily fortified and well defended. The Crusaders suffered from disease, starvation, and harsh weather. They built siege towers and conducted continuous assaults but struggled to break through. A betrayal by a local Armenian named Firas allowed Bohemond's forces to enter and capture the city in June 1098. Almost immediately, the Crusaders faced a counterattack by a large Muslim relief army, but they managed to defeat them, solidifying their control over Antioch. The March to Jerusalem, 1099. After consolidating their position in Antioch, the Crusaders pressed on towards their ultimate goal, Jerusalem. By this time, their numbers had dwindled due to battles, disease, and desertions, but the remaining forces were highly motivated. They passed through hostile territories, facing ambushes and shortages of supplies. Some Crusader leaders, such as Baldwin of Boulogne, broke away to establish their own territories, e.g., the county of Edessa. The Siege of Jerusalem, July 1099. By June 1099, the Crusaders reached Jerusalem, which was under Fatimid control at the time. Unlike Antioch, Jerusalem had no outside reinforcements, making its defenses vulnerable. Crusaders built siege towers and launched a final assault on July 15, 1099. Once the city's walls were breached, the Crusaders unleashed a brutal massacre, killing thousands of Muslim and Jewish inhabitants. Many regarded this victory as divine intervention, believing God had granted them Jerusalem. Aftermath and the establishment of Crusader states. Following the conquest, Godfrey of Bouillon was declared defender of the Holy Sepulchre, refusing the title of king. After his death in 1100, his brother Baldwin I became the first king of Jerusalem. Four Crusader states were established: the Kingdom of Jerusalem, the County of Edessa, the Principality of Antioch, the County of Tripoli. While the First Crusade was a success for the Christians, it sowed the seeds for future conflicts, leading to subsequent crusades over the next 2 centuries. Conclusion: the First Crusade was a momentous event that reshaped the medieval world. What began as a religious expedition evolved into a brutal and politically motivated military campaign. The Crusaders' victory at Jerusalem set a precedent for further Christian-Muslim conflicts and the establishment of European-ruled territories in the Middle East. However, the conquest came at a great cost. The massacres, betrayals, and long-term hostilities it generated continue to be studied and debated by historians today. While the First Crusade achieved its goal of capturing Jerusalem, it also ignited centuries of warfare and tension between the Christian and Muslim worlds.